Hey guys, why should you never let your kids watch big band performances on TV? It's because there's too much sax and violins. And it's a shame this show isn't monetized on YouTube because we could donate the profits from this round and call it Big Band-Aid. But that's right, welcome to Deliberation for Next Top Singer's Big Band round. 11 singers need to go to 5 tonight, but before we get the chance to discuss that, we'll go through and see how each one of them stacked up. So anyone got a place that they want to start?
I love that intro. Can I just say I love that? That was awesome.
Yeah, that's the mark we know.
Dad jokes rock.
Andrea, since you're back, I think you can decide who to start on. I think you have a lot to say this round, am I right?
No, actually, I don't. Like I said, no controversy. No controversy, no fighting. I think everything's going to go smoothly.
You don't know that
I think we're all going to
yet.
agree. We're all going to agree.
As long as you agree with my choices.
Okay, I'm just closing my eyes and I'm going to just point at a name. Hooney. I pointed at Hooney.
Sure.
All right, so we can start with Hooney. Who wants to start?
You.
But I had to pick. That's not fair that I have to pick and start.
Okay, I can start then. You have to whine. So Hooney, you have a great tone for Michael Bublé, but you don't sound as comfortable with this genre as you did last time. You were not as energetic and confident as last time, and you are lacking some dynamics. You showed some range though, and you're always solid. You never have any pitch issues to speak of, but I want the Hooney from last round, those magical high notes and that belting. You were a real contender last round. This is not a time to take a step back, but this was still great, a really good job. Now you can go.
Right. Now I will go. Okay. Now I like Hooney's voice. I really do, but I just don't feel like this gave me what was needed for a Bublé song. There wasn't much sway or jive that, you really need to get that emotion and that feeling. It kind of picked up a little bit right past the halfway mark, but by that time it might have been just a little bit too late. There absolutely is no denying that Hooney has a great voice, but I just wasn't feeling it at all this round.
At all? Ooh, that's harsh.
That's not harsh, it's true, but I mean, I love Hooney's voice. I thought Hooney did a great job, but I didn't feel the jive, I didn't feel the sway, I didn't feel the emotion. I just kind of felt like he was going through the motions, but not giving us the emotions.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. It was lacking a little bit of emotion.
Yeah.
But the thing with this round specifically, it is such a high quality round to me. I loved almost all of the entries. So don't think this was a bad performance by any means, but it also wasn't one of the best.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had a necessarily bad performance, but when you're having a big band, I want to hear fun, I want to hear excitement, I want to hear the jive, the sway, and I didn't feel that in this performance.
Yeah, like you've said 3 times now, so...
I know,
So
but
Mark.
you keep arguing the point with me, so...
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo most of the same, but I'll skim through anyway. Yeah, I'm the same. It's not that I don't like it, but I've got to ding this on technicals and on delivery in terms of my scoring. A few of the transitions in the low notes are so dramatic that you literally couldn't get your mouth around the words. I had the energy going the other way, and it kind of felt like it was there in the first half, and then it's kind of like if he's walking out on stage, he's walking about a little bit, and by the second half, he's gone back to the mic stand. It kind of had that to me, but yeah, there is definitely a difference in energy between the two different halves, depending on how you see it, and the energy didn't really lift with the band for me. We've had so much swagger and attitude from Hooney as well throughout the earlier rounds, and that all completely goes out the window because it's the first time he's really not been that comfortable in the genre, and it's just a shame he didn't really fight through that and find a way and just kind of played it a little safe more than anything else, but not bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you compare this to last round, this was miles apart, just in terms of energy and just picking a safe song or performing it safely. I mean, last time he gave us such power and everything, so... Okay, my turn to pick someone then. So, a contestant that has always been kind of a hot button topic on this panel. Bibi, I think you really made this your own and you sang throughout the song, so you really milked the time, which is smart. Great belting, great runs, but I think you are losing your breath at some occasion. But that's just a tiny flaw in comparison to the whole thing, so... I want to hear how controlled you can sing when you're sustaining your belts, and that is a song choice issue. You also stayed in one dynamic throughout it, and that is also a song choice issue. I want to hear the full quality of your voice, but you have a lot of emotion and energy in this, so great job. And I'm pretty interested to hear Mark's opinion first and foremost.
Okay, You know how every season I throw up a surprise and it isn't really a surprise? I get it now. Like, this is the most complete performance I've heard from BB. And the thing that does it is this is the first time really where he's not tried to force things in places where they don't belong. I think he took it a little bit too much to heart, my comment about wanting a little bit more of that rock tone that he's known for injected. And there's injecting it and there's just trying to force it in somewhere to make it fit, even though it doesn't necessarily work. But this time, it's like he's throwing that out the window and he's just rammed him down our throats, whatever that happens to be. A few of the notes are a little wild. It's kind of like he's throwing himself to get there in just the passion of performing it. But it doesn't matter. And if you try and dial that out, then it would maybe lose some of the edge towards the performance. So for me, yeah, a few technical problems in there, but I would much rather have that entry than a more technically tuned up but less well delivered performance. And yeah, I think that's something that he needs to carry forward if he gets the chance to go on, is make sure that we get more of that, more of him, more of his character into it.
You did it, BB. You changed his mind. Wow. Did not see that coming.
I never had to change my mind about BB because I've always been on board. I like the slight grit in the trill in the voice. There were a few times when there was some like growls from like the rock growls that kind of sounded forced. It didn't really fit, but mostly I found this to be an ambitious song that just worked so well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Standing ovation.
That's it. That's standing ovation.
I'm going to go for Kat for the next one. This was by far the toughest one for me to score. And
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I don't know if the low fidelity effect on the vocal was a genius move or a terrible one. I mean, it's certainly the most creative entry we've had in terms of the full package, putting that effect on there to make it sound super authentic for the time. The dress, the hair, the video, the dancing to go along with it. But I think part of the problem with that is why I struggled so much with it, because some of the highest notes that sound brittle and shrill and a little times waily might just be getting sucked out by the effect, and it's sucking all that tone out the thing. And I feel like if we had the raw vocal, we maybe would have had thicker, warmer, more full. It maybe would have stood up better in the context of this competition than it would anything else. Maybe if we having the option of both isn't ideal, but I think Kat's kind of fell into a trap that we've seen from her before, at least I did, going for the performance and the theatre aspect a little more than just letting her voice stand up on its own, because it can. That was my opinion on her in the group round. That's what turned me around to her as being a viable option. And it feels a little misplaced. Towards the second half of it, it seemed like she was just getting a little ahead of the beat and her timing was a little bit off. And some of my issues with the notes that we're hearing is probably because of the effect rather than anything else, but it's not what I want to hear as such out of a complete well-rounded voice. So I've got problems all around with it.
Yeah, I can definitely see your points. It was a very risky choice to edit it that way. So for me, Kat, this was a wonderful cover. It was like this old-time thing. Oh, I don't know how to phrase it, but
Old-time nostalgia.
Old-time feeling to it. You really brought something unique to this round. It was almost this nostalgic feeling to it, and I love you in this. But I wished you used that old audio quality in just a part of the song instead of the whole song, kind of like Britney Spears did in Oops, I Did It Again. It was a little bit more difficult to score it because of that, like Mark said, but those high notes plus the vibrato equals magic. Like I said, you have the best vibrato in this competition. You are actually more versatile than people give you credit for, I think. But if I heard it in full audio quality, then I might have picked up some more nuances. So it was a very risky choice in a singing competition. So I'm in pretty much total agreement with Mark.
See, now I kind of said the same thing along the lines of what you did, Petri. Also in the lines of what Mark said, I had such a hard time actually scoring this. I wanted to give it high scores because I loved it. I loved the nostalgic feeling of that old-time radio. Just kind of like listening to it the way my grandma would have listened to it on the radio back in her day when she was young and this song was popular. And I like that feeling, but it also just sounded so produced. What I would have loved to hear was her to start with this this old time sound, and then slowly by like after the first verse, bring us into the modern times and then give us a modern take and a modern sound and make it sound like we're listening to it on our radio. I mean, I thought that would have been so beautiful, just that old time nostalgic sound, and all of a sudden, boom, we're back in the future, but it's still this beautiful song. I was torn between giving a low score. I just don't get the feeling for the voice that I would have loved to have heard. I would have loved to hear the tone. I would have loved to hear the warmth and the quality. But at the same time, I want to give it a higher score because I absolutely fell in love with this. I think she's got a very nostalgic voice, and I think that this was very unique, but I'm kind of torn between high and low just because I don't know. I could see both sides, but I just wish she would have given us a taste of the nostalgic and then dragged us back into the future and give us the two flips of the coin or the two different generations. That was a missed opportunity for me.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to Oops, I Did It Again, like I said. Britney Spears, she used that in the beginning of her verses, but then she still gave us the modern sound. That's what you needed to do. Dream Kittu. This was so stunning. I mean, this is the dynamic Dream Kittu that I love. This was very controlled. I really like the range from those low notes to those high notes, from soft to strong, and you really controlled the softness and the hardness with mask projection, with pulling back and then being strong again, and I'm very impressed with that. But the belts were too shifted to head voice, so you should try a more mixed voice with a little bit more chest voice.
Starting to see where the first fight might be coming from.
No.
So this to me feels like it's missing out on a lot of the fun of what big bands should be. I agree, the big and the long sustained notes, they're an absolute dream, but there's such a difference in dynamic as you move up. It's either saying you've got your compression completely wrong when you're recording or mixing, or you just haven't got the power to carry them off, or you've got different levels of power depending on which range you're in. Some of the most famous versions of this track that I've either know about and have gone back and had refreshers on, they lay back a lot in the softer parts and then really go over the top with the pronunciation of the phrases, and that's where the dynamic comes in that makes it really interesting and spicy. Otherwise, much like a lot of the songs in the genre, if you sing it straight down the line, it can seem very samey and kind of flat in terms of the energy, which I think is part of the problem. It's got sultry vibes to it at points, which was great, but it felt like it was missing quite a lot in terms of the dynamic, and much more could have been done with the bare bones of it.
I think she's one of our most dynamic singers this season, and in this round especially. I mean, she has the subtle dynamics from soft to more soft to strong and more strong. She has those nuances, and I don't think we can find so many other singers in this competition that are as dynamic as her. I mean, can you give me some names here, because I just don't believe you. I mean, who is more dynamic than her? If you can give me 2 examples.
Interesting. I mean, in comparison, BB's probably got a shout in terms of he can just throw the rock quality in there wherever he wants. Rosemary can give us stack loads in terms of her variety and the power that she brought in the group round. Pooney, we've talked about it a number of times in the group round again. Him and Sundubu both have the ability to mix it up and to throw that in the mix. I don't disagree that she has it, but we're talking about a top 10, 11 going into a top 5 out of 100 plus people. They've all got the ability to show us dynamic, and the ones that haven't, well, they're gone already.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the current round specifically. I think she was one of the 2 more dynamic people this round.
In current round and in the group round, I don't see it. Round 2, I do.
Andrea, we need a third opinion here.
Okay. Dream Kittu. Okay. I love Dream Kittu's voice. I love the sultriness that is needed to make the song work really well. I think the tone and the quality of the voice is very lovely, but I'm going to agree with Mark. I didn't feel the energy or the emotion. There was a real disconnect with the emotion for me. It just sounded like she was singing a song to herself as she's doing the dishes. It didn't really sound performance-wise to me. I didn't hear the dynamics. Like, I heard dynamics, but it wasn't the most dynamic performance that I heard in this particular round. Dream Kittu could do so much more with that beautiful voice that she has, and I just didn't think she she delivered. I think she kind of got lost in the big band. I agree with Mark on this one.
I'm in total disagreement with both of you. I mean, in the verses she had this low, soft voice, and then in the choruses she brought that power and up to those high notes. I think you're really missing something with this cover. Could you listen to it again, please?
Now, I listened to it a couple times. I listened to everybody like 2 or 3 times just to really hear it. I kind of stand by my review. I mean, Mark might want to re-listen to it. I mean, he might change his mind, as he often does.
No, I've listened to it about 7 or 8 times. I started quite early on this week, and then I've had another refresher sort of in the last hour or so before we jumped on. And I stand by my point that it was missing a lot of the fun and a lot of the things that you can add as a singer in a big band. She didn't. You know, a bit of a sultry quality is great, but if you listen to any number of covers of that particular track and the way that they play about with the phrasing and laying back and then punching it home and compare it to this, no, it's not.
Yeah.
If we're talking about fun and performance and delivery and dynamic, then I'm not going to get swayed on it.
I think it's easy to miss and not appreciate the subtle dynamics in the softer parts, but that is such an important part of this because that still requires a bit of control. And I think she's one of the most controlled singers this season, especially among the females. So I think that's going to be a contentious issue that we're going to get back in the voting parts, definitely, by the sounds of it. So let's just move on for now.
Lee, it started off so good, but then it really fell apart when you got to Never Saw the Sun Shining So Bright, and then it just kind of fell apart after that vocally. I know that there's some dissonant notes that are in the song, but it just, I don't know, there was something that just didn't work right. There were still some good moments when you got to the scatting. Scatting is actually a lot harder than people think it is, and you did that very, very well. You got it back on track. The last note seemed extremely forced. I think you needed to pull back on that just a little bit. I just thought that the song didn't work very well for you.
Hang on, what was the word you said? Scatting.
Scatting.
What is that?
Like the bee boo ba ba bee ba boo ba dee ba bee ba boo. That's scatting, basically.
Okay. Okay, I guess me then. Great energy and emotion, Lee, in this song. The high belts were too shifted towards your head voice though, and that has been a consistent problem throughout the season. I'm gonna link a video to you about belting in the video description. At some parts, I did hear power without the head voice, so you definitely have potential. The vibrato was quite harsh to me though. It doesn't sound effortless, it's kind of hard and throaty, so that was pretty jarring to me. And the whole cover doesn't seem effortless. You were always so solid before. I understand that you have real life issues that played a part in this, but the judges can only take the song into consideration, and I hope you understand that.
I mean, that was one wild ride from start to finish. It kind of felt like the more it went on, because you've got an instrumental that's got the drummer playing 16th notes, it's kind of like you got lost in that, like you were trying to chase it down somehow, and then you lost again the laying back behind the beat kind of vibe that works really well with the song and the genre. Some of the big notes that were thrown into the end of a run just seemed a little wild and sharp and out of the blue. The transition wasn't particularly smooth to that. You've got a great tone and range, which we've seen throughout the competition, and to be honest, even showed it in this entry, but delivery and execution seemed to let you down.
It's good that we're not arguing about every single one, otherwise this was going to be 2 hours long again.
Yeah, we're doing good, so let's keep going.
In the spirit of minimal arguing, I think let's go with another one that shouldn't cause too many problems. Little spoiler alert on this one, but Tristan, I'm going for next. So a lot of what you've done in this to add your own spin and flair, it's not to my taste personally, but it doesn't affect your score, as you've actually got my top score and top performance for the whole thing. Your play with the timing and the phrasing and the melody just comes off really well. There's always something new around the corner, something really unpredictable that, you know, it kept me on my toes and really broke out of the box of big band in a really clever way, and then throwing in the backing vocals that you wouldn't normally have in this kind of genre as well. It's just another little thing you've added on to make it different and make it yours and to make it more interesting. A few of the softer parts disappear in the mix, but that is just a case of bumping the volume up up more than anything else, I think, rather than you not being able to deliver the breath control to make those work. And all in all, not much I can really say to critique it. I think one thing to throw in, just because I don't necessarily like the touches that someone puts in, doesn't mean I'm not going to recognise it, and doesn't mean that my score is going to reflect the fact that they've done a very good job to make it their own and add their own touches to it.
You're pretty delusional if you think that it's not going to be arguing about this one. But I can go last one on this, I think. So let's hear it from Andrea.
Good Lord. All right. Jeez. Okay, I thought, Tristan, you got a very smooth sound, but I heard a few pitch issues throughout the entry. I like your voice. I really do. But do I think this round it's enough to knock someone else out of the competition? I'm really not sure. It's one of those feelings where I like it, but it was aight. It's aight. You know, it's aight. That's all I can really say. I can't say, oh my gosh, wow, and gush over it the way Mark did. And I'm probably not going to say it's the way Petrie's about to, because I have a feeling he's about to really go off. I am in the middle, just kind of neutral, just kind of, it was good, but it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was just decent. But is decent going to get you into the top 5? I guess we're going to have to wait and see where the scores fall.
Okay, I'm actually not going to be that mean, okay? I'm actually in pretty much agreement with you, Andrea. I mean, Christine,
okay.
You did a really good job in this. I have always loved your timbre and you really stand out in this competition. And it's really impressive that you're making your own instrumentals. But of course, that's not what you're being judged on. You should spend more time on your actual singing performance. This was sung quite carefully without any power and you disappeared a bit on the soft notes. You and Ty seem to have switched places in this competition because now you're becoming this kind of timid singer almost. This version was very different from Hooni's. I think I prefer Hooni's version a little bit actually. And this whole season I have asked dynamics from you. Last round you were amazing, but this time you really dropped the ball for me a little bit. You are known for harmonies at this point though, and that was the high point of the cover, a really great end to me. But it seems like that is covering up for a lack of power. And there were also minor pitch issues in this, like Andrea said, but you are a very believable artist. You have the musicality going for you. This is a really tough round, so great singers are going to be eliminated today, unfortunately. So yeah, another contentious one in the voting part, I think.
It's funny. One time I sided with Mark, and the next time I sided with you. It's okay.
Nice one, Switzerland.
Have you been to Switzerland? You would fit there.
I'm neutral. I try to cause no problems ever.
Let's go with Ty then, because I brought him up in Tristan's feedback.
Okay.
So Ty, I don't know where you found the cojones, but you really found them. I mean, you are a contender now. You have amazing confidence in this. You have silky smooth runs and those creamy low notes. You have one of the widest ranges in this competition too, at least among the guys. And you're really singing out too. There's not much to complain about in this, but I wish there was this big surprising moment with belting in this song. I'm not sure you can pull that off though. You have still ways to go to become a true belter, but you have made such a huge development in this competition, and that's exactly what I want for this competition, so great job.
All right.
Uh-oh.
Or who's next? Mark or me? Mark.
I have
Sure.
to hear what this is about, but I don't know if you want to hear it.
Okay,
All right,
I've listened to this on just about every kind of sound device I can lay my hands on to try and figure out what's going on with it. And the more I listen to Ty, I've had concerns or questions over the last few rounds. The more I listen to it, the more I think it's something to do with his recording setup that makes the sound so compressed. The thing I'm picking up on is it felt like the vocal was just smashing me the whole time and smashing the speakers or headphones or whatever I was listening to. And I'm getting hammered by it, and all the dynamic that and the warmth and the nuance of his tone that is the one thing I've always sort of latched onto with him doesn't come across anywhere near enough until that last little riff part at the end where we get a bit of softness to it. And it's a tough one to score because this is absolutely in his wheelhouse, and I'm not sure it's a voice problem. It's just the way that it was recorded or produced or whatever, to my ears and to every bit of listening software bit of kit I could find, car, speakers, headphones, phone, audio, it didn't allow the voice to convey in the right way for me.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Not sure what you're talking about exactly. I mean, the thing I hear with his recording always is this kind of reverb thing. I mean, this kind of a little bit too wet reverb at times. But that's the only thing I can say about his audio quality, I guess.
That was my first impression. I had to listen to it a couple times. My first impression was that it sounded, I didn't know if he was using some kind of a reverb or if it was the room that he was in, that he was recording in. There just seemed to be kind of like this heaviness in there. But I really love the tone of his voice. When he in the very beginning, when he first went to the Let My People Go and he dropped way down to that low voice, I mean, he hit that like nothing else. I mean, that was just so on point, that note.
Yeah.
He had some really good runs in there, and I really felt like he brought the dynamics that you're always looking for. I think that he brought this. I enjoyed the performance, so screw you, Mark, as always.
I guess real quick to clarify, if I was looking at it in terms of mixing it down, then it would be hitting the limiter for me, and then I would just dial back the volume. It won't hit the limiter, and then instead of sounding squashed, we're going to get a little more of those dynamics starting to come through, which is what it sounds like to me, honestly, which is why I'm thinking it's a production thing rather than Ty's voice kind of thing. But if I can't find a way to make it sound as dynamic as he's intending it to be, or how his raw vocal would have been, then it gives me a problem on the scoring.
Yeah, don't go too heavy on the limiter. That was a mistake I did in my mixing a while back. I mean, it sounds too overly compressed if you do that. But I didn't have that as a note on Ty, so I'm still not sure about that comment. I guess I would need to listen to that again, but I guess it's a hard thing to explain to us mortals who don't know as much about audio production, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. It could just be that stuff like that wouldn't necessarily bug me because I know what the fix is. I'd pull down a fader and it's problem solved. It's one of those. But yeah, maybe it's just something that's very noticeable to me that isn't, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, whose turn is it?
It's probably mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's yours.
Okay, so did we change the rules and make it a free choice round? Because I have to go to Sundubu next. I mean, a few horns coming in doesn't really count for me, and having 6 voices for the original version, again, doesn't really count as a big band to me. The big problem I have with song choice here more than anything else is the hardest part of big band vocals is you've got 11, 12, 15, whatever piece band behind you that have to stay in the pocket to stop it from being organised chaos, and then the vocalist out front needs to then put that flair in. And if you're not performing a big band song, it's really difficult to be able to score on delivery in a round like this, because it just doesn't really play off with what it needs to be as well. Big miss on the brief for me, and it's going to cause problems for my scoring going forward. This is another one. The volume of the whole mix seems high to me and is limited and distorted, and again, I've listened to it on 5 devices, I think it was, to make sure, and I'm getting the same thing. There's a lot of points of talk singing, which doesn't really show off that much, and the whole thing comes off as very timid to me, which again, very out of character from what we've seen in the earlier round.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I actually completely agree with you. Did not see that coming.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, should I go then, or Andrea?
It doesn't matter, because I think we're all in agreement, so.
Yeah, I mean, Sundubu, this was good and enjoyable to me, great mixing, but with too much limiter, like Mark said. You are a very solid artist, but like Mark, I failed to see how this follows the theme. There's some digital sounding brass in this, but it's hardly big band. It's more K-pop. The delivery was also K-pop, so you're lacking some versatility. I suggested Moon of Soul, the big band version. That is K-pop, but it would also allow you to show versatility. If you had worked with a mentor or even asked the judges see if it fits, then it might have worked out better. If you would have asked me, then I would have said no. BB got away with not following the theme back in round 2, but the big band theme is such a genre-specific theme, so it would give you an advantage to go with the free choice song here. Your voice sounded a little bit stifled and nasal in this as well, and there was no dynamics, but you are one of our most believable artists to me.
I don't even know if I really have much to add. A big band doesn't mean to have a band with a lot of members in it. Those are 2 totally different things. This was not a big band song at all. I think there were a lot of pitch issues. There was more moments than actual singing. That's not singing. That's just saying, I dropped something. It's just, I think you have given us so many better entries in previous episodes. You have done such you have a great voice. You've got a very unique voice. I wish I could say that this was one of those entries that just wowed me, but I can't. It just was the wrong song choice. It was the wrong genre. It didn't come together, basically. This is nothing on your singing abilities because you've shown us what you can do in the past, but you dropped the ball in this particular round. Rosemary. The opening of the song was underwhelming for me. It should have been a little more sultry, a little more playful. It sounded more like you were practicing the song rather than performing the song, if that makes sense. I mean, it just, for me, didn't hit. There was no emotion. There were pitch issues. I think you have such a lovely voice, and this song would have been so perfect for you if you would have had fun with it. I just didn't feel like you had fun with it. I don't feel like you were comfortable with it. I don't know if maybe it's you're not comfortable bringing that real sultry, sexy sound that the song requires, or what it is. All I know is it kind of fell flat for me. I don't think it really showcased your voice well enough. You have such a beautiful voice, and I would have loved to have really heard it come through more.
Yeah, I guess more of the same from me on this one. So some of the choice on timing, particularly at the start, sounded a little rushed, and there were some chances missed for some big sustained notes in some of those first couple of phrases. Later on in the cover, you did work in some really fun tweaks in the phrasing as well, and at times you added some nice character that really fitted the theme. At other times it felt very clumsy and forced. I mean, I enjoyed it, and there were some flashes of brilliance, but it just felt like in terms of delivery there was a lot of polish that could have happened and showed glimpses but didn't carry that through from the whole performance.
Yes, so Rosemary, you really changed your tone in this. You really made an effort to show some versatility because of that, because your voice is deeper and thicker. I liked the power in the end, but that part was too short for me, and it was too long of a build-up. I wished you had more sustain on that belted note when you sang Feeling Good in the end, because that was the high point of the cover. And you also have minor pitch issues in this. This is clearly not your genre. There was some second guessing in this, but you made a good effort. Natasha then, Mark Starr. I really adore your voice. It's so quirky and soulful, but I asked dynamics and power from you and I didn't get it. You need training to get to the next level, I think, because I don't know if you are capable right now. The song choice was good for your voice though. I was really excited to hear you sing this, but it's very similar to two of your other covers, so you're lacking some versatility. I mean, it's very similar to your audition song and your round 2 song, that Amy Winehouse song. So that's pretty much all I have to say. And I want to hear from Mark. Do you think the star was worth it?
Absolutely. I mean, my favourite entry of the round, to be honest, but not my highest scoring. So there's definitely some technical issues here. I mean, a missed cue. We did have a bit of a confusion about having 3 different mixes of the same song, which is interesting. And at one point, and in one of those, the missed cue isn't missed. So I don't know if it was a mixer putting it in the wrong place or a mixer fixing it. It's tough to tell. But we won't dwell on that too much. So there's some potential issues with timing, a few words underpronounced, and I think some notes out of place as well. But what a voice, what a talent. I mean, over 100 people come through, and that's the sort of voice that we get reach this sort of stage, which is brilliant. And I take the point about everything sounding the same or similar, but it's Lana Del Rey, Amy Winehouse, and Adele, like a holy trinity of 3 artists that you absolutely don't go and take on in a competition like this, and she has, and she's made it work. And you know, having such a unique voice could tackle a bunch of other quirky artists and different tracks when we get into Judge's Choice next time that would absolutely sink a vast majority of the people in this competition, and that's something. It's raw, and a lot of the people in this competition, they tend to be all-rounders that can mix and produce and have had some vocal coaching and have solid technique and invested in their equipment, as well as giving us a big dose of personality in the voice that they bring across, which is part of the problem. But nothing else in this round moved me just with raw emotion than this entry did.
I don't know if I would define those 3 singers that you mentioned as untouchable, but I can definitely see your point that not many voices would be able to pull off this. But still, this is a competition. You need to bring dynamic dynamics and power. It isn't enough to have a unique voice. I mean, that is a big box to tick, but it's not the only box to tick. And yet 3 people submitted her entry this round. That has to be a record. Just a fun little side point.
I was confused. Which one do I listen to? I was so stuck on that. I was so confused. Okay, Natasha, I feel that you have got probably one of the most interesting voices in the competition. Usually, and this was something that I said early on during the audition phase, that a lot of the girls all sound very alike. They've all got that soprano, pop, Taylor Swift sound. They all have like that sing-song. I mean, after a while, some of the girls, I wouldn't know which one is singing because they all sound so similar. But then we have somebody who comes in with this Macy Gray type voice. And I don't know if you know who Macy Gray is.
Absolutely.
I grew up with Macy Gray. I absolutely adore Macy Gray. And that is a Macy Gray voice with your own take on it. And that's why I absolutely adore it. That said, this round, I wish the enunciation was a little better. I felt like I needed subtitles to understand the song. If I didn't know the song beforehand, I would have had a hard time really following it. You can have that Macy Gray gritty, sultry voice, but you can still open those notes up and get those words out a little bit better. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I love the unique quality. I loved that sultriness. I love that Macy Gray singing Adele. There was something about this that just kind of moved me. I'm like Mark, this was not my highest score of the evening, but I can honestly see why he used his star to keep you in this competition, because I did enjoy it.
Yeah, that was a really good start to use. It was worth to hear her at least one more time. It sounds as if we're all 3 big fans of Natasha's voice, but as judges we have to try to find objective parameters to judge people by. I mean, such as dynamics and versatility and pitch issues and whatnot. I mean, we can't just go by the voice only. And I don't think she has brought in the power at any point of the competition, which is a shame, because if she did, she would have been a clear finalist to me.
I don't know. I think she gave us power in this. I definitely felt a little power in this. Maybe not as powerful as other or dynamics.
I'm talking about belting though.
Well, I don't know if this song would have really, you can't really belt this particular song much.
Have you heard the Adele version?
Yeah, I've heard the Adele version a lot, and I still think she was fairly on point with that. I don't think she did it as hard as she could have done it, but I don't think that she didn't belt at all. I don't think that it was with no dynamics at all. I think she gave us dynamics in the song, but that's just me.
There was some dynamics, but it was hardly the belting that some other people give us. That's where I lie, but I guess we're gonna wait and see till the voting part to see how it went.
Yeah.
So now there's only one left, and that is Olivia.
I've got a few issues on technicals here. Fairly common theme running throughout. You're working hard on your dynamic, but the soft parts become too quiet and dip behind the mix and get lost. I don't know if it's a volume thing or just not really pushing those out enough. Some of the biggest notes at the end, we don't get the full effect, as again, they hit a bit of a limiter and distort, which is a shame. But I like the way that you're mixing up the laying back and going for the power at the right moments, which is a key thing for big band in particular. The ideas were great in terms of how you tried to tackle this. At a few points, the execution was a little off, in my opinion, but generally a really good effort.
Did you hear the version with more volume?
I did, same problem.
Huh. Okay, I think I gotta go next then. Because Olivia, this was the best thing you have done in this competition so far. I wanted someone to really bring that power and that sustain and that big vibrato. You suited the theme to a T. You have dynamics from that softness to strong belting, and that end gave me a chills moment. But like Mark said, it was peaking at a few occasions, and I wish the mixing was better. You need more compressor and reverb and EQ. I was able to improve it a little bit, in my opinion, but you are judged on the version that is sent to us. So I subtracted a 0.5 because of that, but otherwise I can't fault this. Mixing and audio quality really matters in an online competition, so that's something you really need to improve for next round if you happen to go through. You need to learn mixing or try to find a mixer like some of the others did. You might find one in the server actually. You were dangerously close to the bottom last time, and I hope you are nowhere near it this time. Okay, Andrea?
I don't wanna.
Why not?
Oh, because it's just gonna lead to a fight, and I'm just so tired. I don't wanna do a fight today.
Just agree with me and we're all good.
No. All I can say for me personally, this is just a personal opinion. Again, it is objective, so, we're not gonna have to fight about it because my score doesn't necessarily reflect my feelings. I think my score is pretty fair. I've always loved Olivia's voice. I always thought that she had a very amazing voice, but this just fell flat for me. I didn't feel the emotion in it. I didn't feel the build up to that last sliding note. I liked the last sliding note. I wish it might have just kind of like hit a little bit higher, like maybe 1 octave higher to give us something really big. But I think that the sliding note at the end was probably the highlight of the song. I thought it was a solid performance. It was a very well done performance, but I think it was just kind of a going through the motion performance rather than giving us emotion performance. So
I have never disagreed with you as much as I do this round.
Yes, you have.
I can't
yes,
believe
you, have.
Andrea.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. You have disagreed with me on nearly every freaking round in every freaking season, and it's always been a pain in my ass.
It's been a pain in my ass.
Disagree with Mark today. Disagree with Mark. He likes to fight.
I disagree with you both. That's
He
fine.
likes fighting. Mark, you take this one.
I absolutely do.
But Andrea, have you heard the higher volume version that Olivia sent?
Yes, my opinion is the same, but I'm going to let Mark fight this one out. He can argue.
I should have published the episode before this, then you would have heard the edited version, because then you can hear how it could have been. And I think if anyone
yeah, like the version where you've added in a bunch of stuff that's missing.
Yeah, but we are scoring on the singing performance first and foremost, so that shouldn't matter.
And that's what I'm scoring on. I'm not even scoring on technicality. I think she has a beautiful voice. I think she gave us a decent performance. I think that there just could have been things that could have been done that weren't done, and I don't think I scored her unfairly, so my score might be higher than my opinion, but that's where I am.
How is there not any build-up if she brings that softness and then that strong belting in the end with that big vibrato and sustain? I mean, that is build-up if I've ever heard it, so I don't see your point whatsoever.
I don't see your point whatsoever.
The most emotion and performance I've seen from Olivia all season is that time she was super late and she's just slapped a camera on her piano and then played it and sung it on the spot.
Yes.
And just nailed it one take.
Yes.
That's what she needs to do more of, instead of, I'm guessing, just going over it and polishing it and perfecting it and whatever. It feels like by the time she gets to actually record her take, it's missing some of that kind of character that you get when you're first working it out.
Can I give you a secret?
No.
No, okay.
No,
You'll
what?
never know
What? What's the secret?
Yeah, that round 2 performance is actually an old video of hers. I actually saw it before. She just cut it for the competition, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
It still worked out more for me than this particular round, so.
No, I think this is the best thing she has ever done.
I disagree. I don't think it's I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying it's the worst. I'm not saying that it's a deal breaker. I'm just saying that this wasn't her best performance. For me, I think there was a lot of emotional disconnect. I didn't feel the build-up that you obviously felt, and that's where I stand.
I already know I'm going to hate this result. But let's move on to the voting part. Let's just get it over with.
Fine.
The big band round turned out to be a big round with big surprises on many levels. It's gonna be a really exciting round next round, and we have some really strong contestants in the next round. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Don't miss the upcoming result. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.